Elia's ward hated alarms, not because they were loud, but because alarms were never polite. They did not knock. They did not wait for permission. They screamed their truth and demanded he deal with it. The distress signal hit his console in the middle of a routine diagnostic sweep, a thin, sharp chirp that cut through the steady hum of his small salvage skiff. The screen filled with a string of symbols that were almost, but not quite, standard trade code. Almost was the dangerous part. Elias leaned closer, rubbing sleep from his eyes. He was a technician, not a hero, and his ship was a patched-together little thing with more personality than polish. It had a good engine, a stubborn life support system, and a habit of rattling when the artificial gravity shifted. It was perfect for quiet jobs, checking derelicts, repairing relay buoys, salvaging dead satellites. A distress call was never quiet. He ran the code through a translator. The translator stuttered, thinking hard like a person who did not want to admit they were confused. Then it produced a rough output. Medical, power failure, crew in danger, dock and assist. A second line appeared. Authorization, KAELARI Meridian Seal. Elias blinked. He had heard the name Kelari before, the way dockhands talked about storm fronts, not with details, with caution. Kelari ships were rare on human lanes, not hostile, not friendly, just distant. They traded when it served them, moved like ghosts when it didn't, and kept their technology behind layers of rules and silence. Still, a distress call was a distress call. Even pirates sometimes answered them, if only because leaving people to die in vacuum was bad for business. Elias was not a pirate. He did not like to imagine himself as anything other than a man doing his job. He checked the local map. The signal came from a point just off the corridor, near the shadow of an ice moon. The transponder ping was weak, the kind that suggested either damage or deliberate power conservation. "Okay," Elias said to the empty cockpit. "Okay, we look, we help, we leave." His skiff adjusted course. The stars shifted slowly as his ship rolled, and the ice moon grew larger, pale and scarred by ancient impacts. Then something appeared beside it, something long and dark like a blade left floating in space. At first he thought it was a wreck. It didn't have blinking navigation lights. It didn't have the usual bright advertising panels that human freighters loved. It was sleek, curved, and quiet. The surface looked like it swallowed starlight instead of reflecting it. His scanner tried to label it and failed. No registry returned, no public identifier, only the faint pulse of the distress call like a heartbeat that didn't want to stop. Elias swallowed. He told himself again people might be dying. He brought his skiff in slow, careful. His docking clamps found a port that looked half-hidden, as if it preferred not to be used. The port accepted him without a word, and for a second he felt relieved. Then he noticed the airlock symbol. It wasn't human. His translator flashed another warning, unknown standard. Pressure differential possible. Elias stared at the lock. The safe choice was to back away, report it to the nearest station, and let people with larger ships and heavier suits handle it. The right choice, the one he could live with, was to at least check whether someone inside could be saved. He pulled on his suit, not a military suit, not fancy. A working suit, scuffed at the knees and patched at the elbow. He checked the seals, the oxygen, the emergency gel. He clipped a small tool kit to his hip. He took a compact light and, after a moment of hesitation, a stun baton. It was legal on salvage lanes for dealing with wild drones and desperate scavengers. He did not like carrying weapons, but he liked dying less. The airlock door opened with a smooth, silent slide that made him think of water parting. The inner door waited. A ring of pale blue lights traced the edges, reading his suit and his temperature. For a moment the lock held him there, as if it could not decide what to do with him. Then the second door opened. Elias stepped forward and felt the ship's gravity catch his boots. The air was breathable. It smelled faintly metallic and clean, like rain on stone. The corridor was wide, with curved walls that flowed into the floor with no visible seams. Soft light came from panels that looked like milky glass. There were no signs, no labels, no pipes. It was the kind of place that made human engineering look like a pile of boxes bolted together. His helmet speakers picked up a low vibration like the ship itself was humming under strain. He walked slowly, scanning with his wrist device. The distress call grew stronger as he moved deeper, a corner ahead. He rounded it and froze. They were already there. 4 figures stood in the corridor, tall and still, as if carved into the air. They wore fitted suits that looked like layered fabric and armor at once. Their skin was a muted tone between silver and deep blue. Their hair, if it could be called hair, was pulled back in thick bands, braided tight and controlled. Their eyes caught the corridor light and returned it like polished glass. All of them were clearly female in shape and build, but not in the way humans expected. There was no softness meant for comfort. Everything about them looked designed for function. Long limbs, strong shoulders, steady posture, faces that carried emotion like a locked door carried a secret. They stared at Elias. Elias raised one gloved hand slowly, showing empty palm. "Hi," he said into his helmet mic, then realized that was useless. He switched to open comm and spoke plainly. "I got your distress call. I'm here to help." For a second, nothing happened. Then one of them lifted her hand in a sharp gesture, and the corridor lights brightened. Elias felt his suit's sensors spike as something scanned him, deep, quick, and invasive. His translator buzzed as it tried to catch the sound of alien speech, but the Kelari did not speak out loud. Their helmets did not move. Their mouths did not open. Instead, a tone rang softly in Elias' earpiece, like a single note from a glass instrument. His translator produced words. Identify species, role, intent. Elias exhaled slowly. Human, name's Elias Ward, technician. I saw the distress call and docked to assist. The four Kelari did not move, but Elias could feel their attention sharpen. He had been looked at by angry dock bosses before. This was different. This was like being studied by a storm. Another tone. Confirmation, you are not authorized. Elias frowned. I'm not sure what that means. Your signal asked for help. The reply came faster. The signal was not meant for your kind. You have boarding contamination status. Elias didn't like those words. Contamination? I'm not sick. The Kelari closest to him stepped forward. She was taller than he expected, even through the suit. She moved without sound, without wasted motion. Her helmet had a clear faceplate, and behind it her eyes held him like a clamp. Her voice came through his translator, still filtered, still emotionless. You are a variable. This vessel carries meridian cargo, meridian knowledge. Your presence changes the equation. Elias forced himself not to step back. I don't want your secrets. I'm just here because the call said crew in danger. The Kelari's gaze shifted, just slightly, toward the side corridor. Elias followed it and saw, far down the hall, a figure lying on the floor. His stomach tightened. Someone's hurt. A tone, softer this time. Injury contained. Risk, you. Elias felt anger rise, then he pushed it down. Anger didn't fix machines. Anger didn't save lives. Let me help anyway. If you're running low power, if your systems are failing, I can. The Kelari stepped closer. You will not proceed. Something behind him clicked. Elias turned his head just enough to see a thin, dark shape slide out of the wall, like a blade made of shadow. Not a gun exactly, more like a device that could become a gun if it wanted. Elias lifted his hands higher. Okay, no sudden moves. Tell me what you want me to do. The Kelari paused. The humming under the floor grew louder, and for a moment Elias imagined the ship trembling, holding itself together by willpower. Another tone entered his ear. Captain requests evaluation. Stand by. Elias waited, breathing slow. His mind raced in practical loops. If he was trapped on an unknown ship, he needed to keep calm, keep talking, keep his hands visible. If their power was failing, the air might go bad, gravity could cut out, and then everyone would have bigger problems than rules. Footsteps came from the side corridor. A fifth Kelari appeared, and Elias knew immediately this one was in charge. She moved with a quiet certainty, like the ship made room for her. Her suit carried a different pattern, thin lines across the chest and shoulders that looked like rank markers, though Elias couldn't read them. Her helmet was open-faced, and he saw her expression clearly. Not angry, not curious, controlled, her eyes fixed on him. Human, she said, and the translator made the word crisp. You are aboard a Meridian vessel. I didn't know, Elias replied. Your distress call. The call was coded for Kelari assistance, the captain said. Your translator should not have been able to read it. Elias hesitated. It barely did. My system guessed. The captain's gaze sharpened. Guessing is a habit of your kind. Elias almost smiled, but he didn't. It's a survival habit. She studied him for a long moment. Around them, the other Kelari remained still, like statues waiting for a command. Somewhere down the hall, a faint alarm pulsed, subtle but persistent. The captain spoke again. State your intention. To help, Elias said. If you're in danger, I can repair. If you don't want me near your sensitive areas, fine. Point me at the broken thing that's killing your crew and I'll do what I can. The captain's jaw tightened. You do not understand. If you have seen this vessel, you cannot leave. Elias felt a cold weight drop into his chest. That's not how rescue works. It is how continuity works, she replied. Knowledge spreads, contamination spreads, the Meridian cannot allow it. Elias tried to keep his voice even. So what, you plan to imprison me? The captain did not answer immediately, and that silence was worse than a threat. It made room for too many possibilities. Elias forced himself to focus on the practical. Your distress call says power failure. If your power is failing, you can't enforce anything for long. You need repairs more than you need arguments. The captain's eyes narrowed, like she didn't appreciate his logic but couldn't deny it either. She turned her head slightly and gave a short command in her own language, a sound that the translator refused to touch. Two Kelari moved to the injured figure down the hall. Another stepped to a wall panel and placed her palm against it. The panel lit up with symbols that danced like living things. The ship's humming turned into a strained vibration. The captain faced him again. Our power lattice is unstable. A cascade may occur. If it does, this vessel will lose containment. Containment of what? Elias asked before he could stop himself. The captain held his gaze. Meridian. Elias did not know what Meridian was, but the way she said it felt like saying fire inside a dry forest. Is it dangerous? It is, she said, to the unprepared. Elias swallowed. Then you definitely need help. The captain considered him as if weighing tools. You are a contamination risk, she said again, but there was a new word under it now. Asset. Elias heard it in the way she watched his hands, his suit, his breathing. She was not deciding whether to shoot him. She was deciding whether to use him. He hated that feeling, but he also understood it. People did strange math when survival was on the line. Fine, Elias said. I'll help stabilize your power. After that, you escort me back to my ship and we talk about next steps like civilized beings. The captain's lips pressed together. You speak as if you have leverage. Elias glanced at the glowing panel, at the subtle alarms, at the tension in the air that his suit couldn't measure but his instincts could. Maybe I do. For the first time, something like irritation flickered on her face. Then it vanished, replaced by smooth command. If you attempt deception, you will be restrained. I'm not here to play games, Elias said. I'm here because someone asked for help. The captain stepped closer and Elias noticed fine details in her eyes, tiny patterns like faint star maps. He wondered briefly what her world looked like. What kind of childhood produced a crew that moved like one mind? You will be monitored, she said. You will touch only what you are told to touch. Works for me, Elias replied. A Kelari approached and held out a small device like a bracelet made of dark metal. Elias hesitated. The captain said, It tracks your location and vital signs. It also alerts if you enter restricted zones. Elias took it and snapped it around his wrist over his suit. It tightened gently like it was learning his shape. Lead the way, he said. They guided him through the ship, deeper into its silent curves. Elias tried to memorize turns, but the corridors felt designed to confuse anyone who didn't belong. The lights shifted subtly as they moved, making it hard to judge distance. It was elegant and unsettling. They reached a chamber where the humming became almost painful. The air felt warmer, thick with energy. In the center was a structure that made Elias think of a flower made from crystal and wire, petals folding inward around a core that pulsed with blue-white light. His scanner went wild. Readings spiked and dropped, unable to settle. Elias whistled softly. That's your power lattice. The Kelari engineer beside him nodded once. Elias approached slowly, keeping his hands visible. He studied the lattice's edges, the way the light flickered unevenly. He listened to the vibration under the floor, felt it through his boots. He had worked on unstable reactors before. Human ones were messy, loud, and honest about their flaws. This one was quiet, like it wanted to fail without anyone noticing. That pulse, Elias said. It's not synchronized. Your phase alignment is drifting. The engineer made a quick sound. The translator offered, Impossible. Elias shrugged. I can see it. Either your sensor is wrong or the lattice is. The captain watched him from the doorway. You claim competence. Prove it. Elias opened his toolkit and pulled out a diagnostic probe. He held it up, waiting. One of the Kelari nodded, permission. He attached the probe to a nearby interface point. The probe's screen filled with lines and numbers that meant nothing to the Kelari, but Elias understood the language of stress. Tiny variations, repeating errors, patterns that screamed of something slightly off. He felt a grim satisfaction. It wasn't magic. It was physics. Here, Elias said, pointing. You've got microfractures in the conduit, probably from thermal cycling. Your system corrects by compensating harder, which creates more heat, which makes the fractures worse. It's a feedback loop. The engineer stiffened. We do not. Elias looked up. You do, maybe you don't know it, but you do. The humming rose sharply like the ship objected to being discussed. A warning light flashed on the panel. The Kelari moved, sudden and sharp, but still quiet. Elias' suit alarmed too, cascade risk increasing. Elias' heart jumped. He didn't have time to argue. You need a bypass, he said fast. A redundancy, do you have any manual shunt? The Kelari engineer made a clipped response. Translator, automatic only. Elias stared. You don't have a manual override. The captain's voice came cold. We do not rely on crude manual control. Elias almost laughed, but it came out as a breath. Well, your perfect automation is about to blow your meridian into my face, so I'm going to be crude. He grabbed 2 cables from his kit and spliced them into the probe's port, then into a maintenance junction. The Kelari engineer stepped forward, alarmed, but the captain raised a hand, stopping her. Elias' fingers moved fast, muscle memory. He wasn't rewriting alien code. He was doing something simpler, giving the lattice a new path to bleed off its stress. The pulse in the core steadied for half a second, then it wobbled again. Elias cursed under his breath. Not enough! The captain's eyes narrowed. You are causing instability. No, Elias snapped. Then he forced his voice down. Your system is already unstable. I'm trying to stop it from getting worse. He looked around, searching. The chamber had smooth walls and clean panels, but there was a service hatch, slightly different from the others. It had scrape marks on its edge, like someone had forced it open before. Human eyes loved imperfections. Elias stepped toward it. The bracelet on his wrist vibrated. A sharp tone rang in his ear. Restricted zone. The Kelari behind him tensed. Elias turned to the captain. If you want this ship to survive, you let me open that hatch. The captain stared at him, and for a moment Elias thought he had pushed too far. He imagined restraints, sedatives, being locked in a room while the ship died. Then the captain spoke. Open it, she said, like it cost her something. But one error and you are restrained. Elias nodded once. Fair. He pried the hatch open. Inside, the neat elegance ended. The space beyond was cramped, packed with conduits and junction nodes, and one of the conduits was scorched black along its length. Elias felt a rush of grim relief. There it was, a real problem, something he could fight. He pointed his light inside. The burn pattern was fresh. The conduit had been overheating, probably for days, maybe longer. The Kelari system had been compensating, hiding the flaw until it couldn't. Elias looked back at the captain. Your distress call was late. The captain's face did not change, but her eyes hardened. We do not broadcast weakness. Elias' mouth went dry. Sometimes broadcasting weakness keeps you alive. He crawled partly into the hatch, careful, and attached his probe to the scorched conduit. Readings jumped. The conduit was not just damaged, it was failing in a way that would spread. We need to isolate this line, he said. Now, the engineer answered, tense. Isolation will drop power to containment. Elias swallowed. And if you don't isolate, containment drops anyway, along with the whole ship. The humming climbed again. The core's pulse flickered like a nervous eye. The captain stepped forward, voice low and sharp. Human, choose. Elias felt the weight of it, not just a repair choice. A political choice, a survival choice, a choice that could make him the reason they lived or the reason they died. He took a slow breath, then spoke with the calm of a man who had learned that panic was just wasted oxygen. Isolate it, Elias said. I'll build you a temporary manual shunt to keep containment fed. It won't be pretty, it'll be human, but it'll work. The Kelari looked at him as if he had offered them a strange medicine, bitter, crude, and maybe the only thing that could save them. The captain held his gaze for a long second. Then she nodded once. Do it, she ordered. Elias turned back to the scorched conduit, hands already moving, mind narrowing to the simple truth of survival. Behind him, the Kelari ship hummed like a beast holding its breath, and somewhere in that hum was a new fact settling into place. A human had boarded the wrong ship, and now, whether they wanted it or not, they were all depending on him, not with sound, but with vibration. The hum beneath the floor shifted into something sharper, uneven. like a living thing in pain. Warning lights bloomed across the chamber walls, pale blues and deep ambers flashing in fast patterns. The Kelari engineers moved instantly, hands flying across panels, bodies precise and controlled. Elias stayed half inside the service hatch, shoulders cramped, boots braced. Sweat gathered under his suit despite the cooling system working hard. His fingers moved with trained speed, stripping insulation, rerouting cables, forcing a path where none had been designed to exist. "Isolation complete," one of the Kelari said, her voice tight. The core's pulse dipped. Once, twice. Then it stabilized into a slower rhythm. Elias let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Okay," he said quietly. "That bought us time, not much, but time." The captain stepped closer, eyes fixed on the readings. "Containment is holding." "For now," Elias replied. "This setup isn't meant to last, it's a patch." "Your system hates patches." The Kelari engineer shot him a sharp look. "Our systems do not hate." Elias didn't argue. He knew better. Machines didn't care about pride, but people did. What matters is that it's not going to explode in the next 5 minutes. The engineer hesitated, then nodded once. "That outcome is acceptable." The chamber grew quieter as the alarms downgraded to softer alerts. The ship still vibrated, but the sound was steadier now, like a deep breath after panic. Elias backed out of the hatch slowly, careful not to snag anything. As he straightened, the bracelet on his wrist pulsed once, then went still. He wiped his gloved hands together. "See," he said, forcing a small smile. "Crude works." The captain studied him for a long moment. Up close, Elias noticed faint lines along her temples, patterns that shifted subtly with her focus. He wondered if they were natural or marks of rank. "You have delayed failure," she said, "not solved it." "That's usually how it goes," Elias answered. "Big problems don't like quick endings." She turned to the engineer. "Begin full diagnostics under reduced load. I want projections for long-term stability." The engineer inclined her head and moved away, already speaking rapid Kelari commands that Elias' translator struggled to keep up with. The captain looked back at him. "You will come with me." Elias' shoulders tensed. "Where?" "Somewhere safer," she said. "And more controlled." "That sounds reassuring," Elias muttered, but he followed. He didn't have many choices, and pretending otherwise would only make things worse. They walked through corridors that curved gently, always guiding him forward without obvious turns. The ship felt alive in a way he couldn't quite explain. Lights dimmed and brightened in response to their movement. Panels shifted to accommodate them, closing off paths behind without a sound. They reached a smaller chamber, circular and calm. A single seat rose from the floor like it had been waiting. The walls were smooth, unbroken, glowing softly. "Sit," the captain said. Elias glanced at the seat, then at her. "Is it going to restrain me?" "Yes," she said honestly, "if necessary." Elias sighed. "I appreciate the honesty." He sat. The seat adjusted around him, not locking him down, but making movement difficult, like sitting in deep sand. He tested it lightly and decided not to push. The captain remained standing. "You understand that you cannot be released." Elias looked up at her. "You said that before. You still haven't explained why keeping me here is better than killing me or letting me go." The captain's expression tightened just slightly. "Killing you would create evidence. Letting you go would spread knowledge. Both outcomes increase risk." "And keeping me?" Elias asked. "Keeps the variable contained," she replied. Elias shook his head. "You realize how that sounds." She did not deny it. "Your species spreads quickly. Your communication methods are inefficient but persistent." One unmonitored human with partial knowledge could destabilize entire regions. Elias stared at the wall for a moment, then laughed softly. "You make it sound like humans are a virus." The captain's eyes flicked back to him. "You are not." Elias met her gaze. "We're messy. We copy ideas. We break things and rebuild them in worse ways that somehow work. That scares people who like control." "Control maintains order," she said. "Until it breaks," Elias replied. "Then adaptability matters more." She studied him again, longer this time. "Your actions in the lattice chamber were adaptive." Elias shrugged as much as the seat allowed. "That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all day." Silence settled between them, not hostile but tense. The ship's low hum was still there, but weaker now, like a distant storm. The captain spoke again. "You are aware that the meridian is not simply a power source." Elias hesitated. "I guessed as much." "It is a convergence point," she said. "A place where energy and information intersect. It allows us to travel, to observe, to predict." Predict what? Elias asked. She did not answer directly. Civilizations that survive are those that reduce uncertainty. Elias frowned. You think humans increase uncertainty? Yes, she said without hesitation. He considered that. You're not wrong. A faint flicker passed through her expression, something like surprise. You accept this assessment, she said. Elias nodded. We don't do well in rigid systems, we poke at them. Sometimes we improve them, sometimes we break them completely, usually both. The captain turned away slightly, as if thinking. This is why your presence is problematic. Or valuable, Elias said quietly. She faced him again. Explain. Elias chose his words carefully. Your meridian system failed because it assumed perfection, no manual overrides. No tolerance for error, you trusted prediction over response. That trust has served us, she said. Until now, Elias replied. You met something unpredictable, not me, physics, where, time, those things don't care how advanced you are. The captain said nothing. The silence stretched. A tone chimed softly in the chamber. The captain tilted her head, listening to an internal feed. Engineering reports stabilization. Your bypass is effective. Elias allowed himself a small smile. Told you. She looked at him with something new in her eyes, not trust, but consideration. You will remain aboard, she said, but your status is revised. Oh, Elias said, do I get a better chair? Your classification is now strategic resource, she said. Elias blinked. That's worse. It is safer, she replied. For you. He wasn't convinced, but arguing semantics felt pointless. What does that mean in practice? You will assist where directed, she said. You will be monitored, you will not access meridian data. Fair, Elias said. And in return, you will remain alive, she said simply. Elias let out a slow breath. I suppose that's something. The seat loosened, allowing him to stand. As he did, he felt the weight of the situation settle fully on his shoulders. He wasn't a guest. He wasn't exactly a prisoner either. He was something in between, balanced on usefulness. They escorted him to a small compartment that was clearly not a cell, but not comfortable either. The walls were bare. A simple resting platform extended from one side. A panel on the wall displayed basic environmental controls. This will be your assigned space, the captain said. You will be summoned as needed. And food, Elias asked. A pause. Your nutritional requirements are inefficient. Elias grinned despite himself. You have no idea. The captain left without another word. The door sealed with a soft hiss. Elias sat on the platform and rubbed his face. His heart was still beating too fast. He replayed the last hour in his mind, cataloging mistakes, close calls, things he should not say again. He also replayed the look on the captain's face when the lattice stabilized. That look meant something. Time passed strangely on the Kelari ship. Without familiar clocks or cycles, Elias relied on his suit's internal timer. Several hours later, the door opened again. Two Kelari stood outside, one an engineer, the other a security officer. You are required, the engineer said. Elias followed them back through the ship, noticing subtle changes. The hum was softer now, the lights steadier. Crew members moved with slightly less tension. They entered another engineering space, smaller than the lattice chamber but packed with systems. A display showed flowing energy lines, one section marked with warning glyphs. This secondary array is degrading, the engineer said. Your methods may apply. Elias leaned in, studying the display. This one's simpler. You've got resonance buildup. You need to bleed it off before it reflects back. The engineer frowned. Our models do not predict reflection. Elias tapped the screen. Your models assume perfect alignment. Real materials aren't perfect. She hesitated, then stepped aside to let him work. As Elias connected probes and rerouted flows, he felt eyes on him. The security officer watched every move, tense but curious. The engineer watched the data, her rigid certainty slowly giving way to something like reluctant interest. Why does your species accept inefficiency? The engineer asked suddenly. Elias didn't look up. Because efficiency breaks when conditions change. Inefficiency gives you room to bend. That is illogical, she said. Survival isn't always logical, Elias replied. It's practical. The array stabilized with a soft chime. Another problem delayed, another fire dampened. Word spread quickly. By the third call, Elias noticed more Kelari watching from the edges of the chambers. They didn't speak to him directly, but their attention followed his hands, his tools, his strange habit of tapping panels and listening to vibrations. He wasn't just fixing machines anymore. He was showing them a different way to look at failure. Between tasks, the captain spoke to him privately. You operate without complete information. Elias nodded. All the time. And yet you succeed. Sometimes, he said. Enough to keep going. She considered that. Our doctrine seeks to remove unknowns. Humans learn to live with them, Elias said. Sometimes we even like them. The ship's sensors picked up something new shortly after. An alert rippled through the command spaces, sharper than before. The captain stiffened as data streamed in. External contact, she said. Unidentified vessels. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Unidentified how? The captain's voice was tight. A rival power, they should not be able to track us. Elias looked at the display, multiple contacts closing fast. Did they follow your distress signal? No, she said. They followed the anomaly, the instability you corrected. Elias winced. So fixing your ship painted a target? Yes, she said. Silence fell as the reality settled. The captain turned to him. Human, you have altered our situation. Elias met her gaze steadily. Then let me help you survive it. Outside the hull, unknown ships drew closer, their intent unreadable. Inside, the Kelari faced a truth they had never planned for. Their perfect predictions had failed. And now the most unpredictable thing aboard their ship was also their best chance to live. The first enemy signal hit the Kelari ship like a whisper before a shout. Sensors picked it up as a ripple, a distortion in space that did not belong. Then another, then three more. Shapes formed on the tactical display, sharp and angular, nothing like the smooth curves of Kelari design. Elias stood near the command platform, watching the lights change. He could feel the shift in the ship's mood. The hum under the floor tightened again, not from damage this time, but from readiness. They're spreading out, Elias said, studying the screen. That's not a scout pattern. The captain stood rigid, hands clasped behind her back. They are not scouting, they are confirming. Confirming what? Elias asked. That we are wounded, she replied. The Kelari crew moved with fast precision. Stations activated. Energy levels rose. Defensive systems unfolded from hidden layers in the hull. Everything was smooth, clean, perfect. Too perfect, Elias thought. What's their usual approach? He asked. Direct engagement after probability lock, the captain said. They analyze, predict our response, then strike at the optimal moment. Elias frowned. So they wait until they're sure. Yes, and you? Elias asked. What do you do? We respond according to calculated counters, she said, each option tested in advance. Elias scratched his jaw. That's a problem. The captain turned her head slightly. Explain. They expect you to act the way you always do, Elias said. That means they already know how this fight ends. A pause. Our predictions show a 78% survival probability. Elias let out a dry laugh. That means you lose this ship almost one time in 4. That is acceptable risk, she said. Elias shook his head. Humans wouldn't accept that. You are not in command, the captain replied coolly. No, Elias agreed, but I've been on ships with worse odds, and I've seen how predictability gets people killed. The enemy ships closed in, their signals growing stronger. Weapons signatures began to spike. The captain faced him fully now. You propose an alternative. I do, Elias said, but you're not going to like it. State it, she said. We stopped trying to be optimal, Elias replied. We stopped making sense. Silence fell around them. Several Kelari turned their heads toward him. Clarify, the captain said. Elias took a breath. Your enemy relies on prediction, so we feed them bad data, we act inefficient, we do things that look like mistakes. That is deception, one officer said sharply. Yes, Elias said, messy, obvious deception, the kind that makes them doubt their models. The captain's eyes narrowed. Our doctrine does not permit chaos. Elias spread his hands. Then your doctrine gets you killed. The enemy ships powered weapons. The tactical display flashed warning glyphs. We don't have time for philosophy, Elias said quickly. Let me help you survive this. The captain hesitated. Elias could see the battle playing out behind her eyes, probabilities, outcomes, losses measured and accepted. Then something changed. She remembered the power lattice, the scorched conduit, the system that failed because it trusted perfection. Speak, she said, quickly. Elias stepped closer to the display. First, we vent power unevenly, not across the whole grid, random bursts. Make your energy signature unstable. That will look like system failure, an engineer said. Good, Elias replied. Second, we launch decoys, but badly, too early, too late, in the wrong directions. That violates engagement protocol, the tactical officer said. Good again, Elias said. Third, when they fire, we don't dodge cleanly, we let one shot graze us. Several Kelari stiffened. That risks hull damage, the captain said. Yes, Elias said, but it tells them we're desperate, that their predictions are right. That makes them confident. Confidence, he knew, was dangerous. The captain stared at the screen, then at Elias. And then we do something they can't predict, Elias said. We cut engines for half a second. Shock rippled through the command space. That would leave us vulnerable, the captain said. For half a second, Elias repeated. And in that moment they'll adjust their fire for a ship that's dead in space. Then we bring engines back online at maximum thrust and change vector hard. The captain's jaw tightened. That maneuver is inefficient. It's terrifying, Elias said. Which is better? The enemy ships locked targeting sensors. Decision window closing, an officer warned. The captain looked at Elias one last time. If your strategy fails, this ship will be lost. Elias met her gaze steadily. If you do nothing different, you already know how this ends. For the first time since he boarded the wrong ship, the captain smiled. It was small, sharp, and dangerous. Implement human protocol, she said. The command deck erupted into motion. Orders flew, clipped and fast. Engineers rerouted power, deliberately introducing imbalance. Decoy bays opened and spat out glowing shapes that jittered and spun unpredictably. Elias held onto a railing as the ship's hum changed pitch wildly. The deck tilted, gravity fluctuating just enough to make walking unpleasant. Enemy sensors reacted immediately. Their formation shifted, confused by the strange energy readings. They're hesitating, Elias said. Good. The first enemy volley fired, bright lances of energy slicing through space. The Kelari ship twisted, not smoothly, but with sudden, awkward corrections. One beam scraped the hull, sending a shudder through the ship. Alarms flared. Damage report, the captain snapped. Minor breach sealed, an officer replied. No casualties, Elias exhaled. They think you're sloppy now. The enemy ships closed in, confidence growing. Engines, Elias said quietly. The captain raised her hand. Cut. The ship went silent. For half a second there was no hum, no vibration. Elias felt weightless, his stomach floating up into his chest. Enemy targeting systems recalibrated instantly, locking onto a motionless target. Now, Elias shouted. The engines roared back to life at full output. The Kelari ship lurched violently, slamming everyone against restraints. The vector changed so sharply that Elias felt something pop in his shoulder. The enemy volley missed entirely, tearing through empty space where the Kelari ship had been. Confusion rippled through the enemy formation. Their predictive models scrambled, recalculating. Return fire, the captain ordered. Kelari weapons were precise, elegant. They struck enemy shields at angles designed to maximize efficiency. Elias shook his head. Too clean. Mix it up. The captain hesitated, then gave a new order. Vary output, randomize intervals. Kelari gunners obeyed, firing in uneven bursts. Some shots were weak, some were overpowered, none followed a pattern. Enemy shields flickered. They're losing lock, an officer said, disbelief in her voice. Elias felt a grin spread across his face. They can't predict stupid. The captain shot him a sharp look. You will explain that statement later. Another enemy ship broke formation, trying to flank. Elias spotted it immediately. That one, he said, pointing. It's adjusting faster than the others. The captain followed his gaze. It is their command vessel. Then let's make it nervous, Elias said. He moved to a nearby console, fingers flying across controls with hesitant permission from the engineer beside him. He rerouted sensor feeds, overlaying false echoes and delayed returns. Feed it ghosts, Elias said. Make it think there are ships where there are. The display filled with phantom contacts. The enemy command vessel slowed, unsure. Then it made a mistake. It fired at a ghost. The Kelari ship surged forward, weapons focused, all that beautiful precision aimed at a suddenly exposed target. The enemy command vessel's shields collapsed under the concentrated fire. Its hull cracked, energy venting into space. The remaining enemy ships faltered. They're retreating, an officer said, stunned. The tactical display showed the contacts pulling back, scattering, their formation broken. The Kelari ship did not pursue. Silence returned to the command deck, broken only by the low hum of systems settling back into balance. Elias leaned against the railing, breathing hard. His shoulder ached, but he barely noticed. The captain stood very still. Damage report, she said. Minor hull damage, an officer replied. No critical systems affected. Casualties, none. The captain closed her eyes for a brief moment. When she opened them, she looked at Elias. You have done something unprecedented, she said. Elias shrugged. You survived. We survived by abandoning optimal behavior, she said slowly. Yes, Elias replied. You survived by being unpredictable. The captain turned to her crew. Stand down from combat readiness. Begin repairs. As the crew dispersed, she remained, studying Elias like he was a puzzle that had rewritten itself. You turned uncertainty into a weapon, she said. Elias nodded. Humans do that a lot. She walked closer. Our models cannot account for this. That's okay, Elias said. You don't need models for everything. A long pause followed. You are no longer merely a strategic resource, the captain said. Elias raised an eyebrow. That sounds ominous. You are now classified as an anomaly, she said. One we cannot ignore. Elias smiled tiredly. I've been called worse. The ship moved again, smooth and steady now, carrying the weight of a new truth through the stars. The Kalari had faced an enemy that understood them perfectly. They survived only because of something they could not predict. And for the first time in their long history, they understood something deeply unsettling. The most dangerous thing in the universe was not chaos itself. It was a species that knew how to use it.